Hey guys, I hope you're all doing well and welcome to the Al-Rilma update. The lovely developers behind automation, Camshaft Software, have given me early access to the Al-Rilma update for me to have a look at, see what I think of it, my first impressions really, and honestly I am so excited. This is a huge update and I'm really looking forward to playing with it. So, the first thing that immediately is apparent, there is now a multiplayer tab. Now, I haven't been able to do any multiplayer gaming so far, but from what I've seen, this looks absolutely incredible. So basically what it is you get a set amount of sort of requirements that you need to make a car or engine to, and the person who makes the best car or engine will win. And yeah, this is going to be really fun. It's almost a PvP type of car building situation, and it's time limited as well. And yeah, this is really exciting, so I can't wait to just play around with it, because honestly I feel like I can build cars pretty decently to certain scores. So this is definitely something that yeah, this is definitely something I will give a proper try when I can. The next thing is, well, I mean, I say the next thing, it is an absolutely huge thing. So basically, from what I understand, the entire workflow of designing and making a car is completely changed now. So let's have a little run through it and see what it is like. So first of all, we come up with this new screen happens, and this is a lot nicer laid out. This layout is a lot nicer, basically. So yeah, I don't know what we're gonna make, but first of all, new to the update is a calendar system, which I think is so much better. So instead of having to skip around all the different years, you can now select a year. So say we want to make a car from 1988, we just click on 1988. But yeah, let's just make a 2015 car. Let's give it a funky name. Let's name it the Boga Torpedo. That sounds that sounds proper. That sounds good. And yeah, same thing with target demograph. This is, I believe, used for the AI generation, which is also down here. You can now also AI generate your entire car, which is really cool. But yeah, let's stick with muscle. This will be our main focus, I guess, because the new update has something really cool in it, which will fit perfectly into the muscle car class. And the next new thing is a revised layout in basically in the bodies. And this is a huge improvement to how it was before. So previously, I can actually show you by clicking on variant view up here, you'd have to scroll down through all the different rows and find the body you want to use, figure out which length you want to use, which is just laid out like this, and then you have to scroll along, find the body that you want to use, and it's quite clunky. It worked, don't get me wrong, I never really had much of an issue with it, but now that I've seen the new system, I don't think I can go back to the old system. It is so much better. So basically what you do is you look around for a body that you like the look of. So I know which body I would like to use, which is this one. You click on it, and then you can select a wheelbase, and you can see how many different variants of this body there is. So there are 4 coupe variants, there's 2 hatchback variants, and 1 estate variant. So yeah, we're gonna go with a nice 2.9 meter long body. And there you go, we selected our body. Very simple, very easy, and here it is. Next, we are just going to choose materials, and from what I understand, not much has changed, apart from that there is a new ladder type chassis available, which the HD, I believe, stands for high density, which basically means the material is a bit stiffer, it can hold out a bit more, it's heavier, but it's safer, and it does cost a bit more. But if you're making something really genuinely heavy duty, this would be the option you would go for. We are just going to go with a monocoque chassis, glued aluminium, front longitudinal, McPherson strut, and multi-link. Just general muscle car stuff. I don't know if they have multi-links in the back, but because this thing is going to have a substantial amount of power, we just want to make sure it works. So yeah. Now, this all seems pretty normal so far. Now it doesn't. So basically what they've done is they've added an entire new section to the development of the car. So now they've put body trims and aesthetics before even making the engine. So you go in and you select your body. So say I would like the muscle car body here. You can now pretty much do all the aesthetic stuff before you even touch the engine. So this is sort of, you make your car look good, and then you make it go fast. So say this is the body we want to use. We then go straight into the gearbox and the drivetrain. So for example, this thing's going to be a rear wheel drive, dual clutch, 8-speed. I don't know, have a massive top speed of 400 kilometers an hour, which is just ridiculous. Helical LSD, and there you go. We now have something to put the engine onto instead of having to put everything else onto the engine, which to me makes a lot more sense. So the next thing immediately is painting the car. So we give the car a nice paint, say we want to give it a nice red. There you go. And then we can paint the secondary color, say we want to make it a nice black. And then say, for example, we want to give it a carbon fiber roof. Sort of all these things are now so easily done before we even touch making the car, like the actual engine and stuff like that. So this is just so much better laid out, and I'm a huge fan. This is so much better than it was before for me, at least, because when making a car, this just makes a lot more sense. So yeah, next we immediately come into the fixtures, and there are some new fixtures actually. So I have had a little look around, and the new fixtures that I did see, for example, are these sort of scoopy things. So you put, I imagine you put them sort of behind the wheel arch, and then, I don't know, for this example, paint them carbon fiber. And yeah, these look really, really nice. I imagine that they are supposed to be for older vehicles, but even for vehicles like this looks really, really good in this situation here. And another new thing that I spotted is down here we've got new vents. At least I think they're new. I don't remember ever seeing them. But for example, you have these really rugged looking sort of fog lights, which I imagine would be more for a off-road vehicle, hence the high density ladder chassis and all that kind of stuff. But even in this muscle car setting, putting a nice sort of vent in between here would just, it looks really, really good. I'm a huge fan. And you also have versions of them in the body modding section where it's just the actual vent, so without the light fixtures and all that kind of stuff. It's just the pure vent. So if you're making, say, this variant is a high class variant, and then you take this piece and then put that in, that would be sort of like your basic variant. So you could almost imagine it like that. But yeah, I really like the look of this. I can't remember if there is anything new, but there is something that has vastly been improved, which is under the wheels section. So previously you had your base wheels, you had your sports wheels, you had your luxury wheels. Well, now they have ordered them in year. So you have your base wheels from 1940 to 1959. So when you're making anything in campaign or anything based on a specific year, you now know which wheels would fit the time period best. And for example, if we wanted to make a 60s or 70s muscle car, you could then take these wheels. I don't know if there's any new wheels. I imagine there probably is. I just can't remember what sort of wheels were in here before, but yeah, this is so much better. So for example, with this vehicle, it's a plus 2000s. It's going to be a sporty vehicle. Say we choose these wheels. There we go. We have our wheels, and I know that this would fit the time period, not only because they look correct, but because the game told me, hey look, these are the wheels from this time period. This is what sort of looks alright on this sort of, this is what would be period correct. And yeah, so next thing would be making the engine, and this is epic. So you come into this new screen again, so we can call it something again. Let's call it the Terrenia Velvet. The Velvet. There you go. So for example, here we can AI make this engine. So say we want to make a muscle engine, we can get it to do a muscle, we can get the AI to make a muscle engine basically. But yeah, so but we're going to do a manual, and because it's a muscle car, it's going to be an V8, and this is going to be quite a cool engine. I have played around with it a little bit already, I'm not going to lie, and I am absolutely in love with it. So we are going to make a nice big chunky engine. Let's make it something like a 6.3 liter engine. And there we go, we have our 6.3 liter engine. It's going to be push rod, sorry, it's going to be push rod. And here we already have one of the new options for our engines, which is the head type. so I say the head type, you have your eco variant, you have your standard variant, and you have your performance variant. So the difference pretty much is the eco variant will sacrifice power for maximum fuel efficiency, but fuel economy and all that kind of stuff, and will also reduce emissions. The performance is the exact opposite. It will sacrifice fuel economy and emissions to make maximum power. And from playing around with it, it is very nicely balanced. I am genuinely enjoying the idea of this. This makes a lot more sense than it did before. And you pretty much have the iron and aluminium variants of each. You also have a race block, which is just everything's just thrown at the wall, no care for fuel economy or anything, just maximum power, and it does cost a lot. It is about 4 times as expensive in this setting here as the other variant, but we are going to go with an aluminium performance head, so we are going to try and go for power with this engine. So let's improve quality a little bit, and yeah, I don't think much has changed here, so we are just going to make your basic engine. We're just going to do a harmonic damper, there you go, give it 18 kilos of ballast so it's nice and smooth, add a bit of quality. And yeah, so here something else has changed, which is pretty much the RPM has been put together with the cams. So your VVL, your variable valve lift, is now a section over here. You have your compression cams and RPM limits in this section here. You can choose if you want VVT, which we will give this engine as it will be pretty easy to add to it. And yeah, let's reduce compression a tiny bit, give it a nice sporty cam profiling. Bits a lot stiffer on cams and lifters since this is a pushrod engine. And see if we can achieve 7,500 RPM. That would be absolutely insane, especially for a pushrod engine. So yeah, and here we have the most cool thing ever. So you have superchargers, you have sequential turbochargers, which means two turbochargers are working simultaneously to provide boost. You have compound turbochargers, which is basically one turbo is feeding into another to produce very quick scrolling, so basically very quick boost at low RPMs going straight into the engine. And then you have your twin charging, which is a supercharger and a turbocharger working together. Absolutely awesome. I am loving it. I have played around with all of these and they are really fun. For this situation we are going to make a supercharger, but I will release a new video basically making different engines with all these different settings and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, it's really cool. I can't wait to show you guys what it's like. But yeah, so for this engine we're going to reduce, let's add an intercooler. Let's give it a nice big intercooler. 1200 horsepower should be all right. Screw type supercharger, so basically your root type is essentially just a fan, like your desk fan or something like that, blowing air into the engine. You have your centrifugal supercharger, which is essentially the same idea as a turbo, but it is driven from your engine belt. But then you also have your screw type supercharger, which if you imagine sort of the drill bits on your tools and stuff, essentially imagine them clamped together and the size changing as it goes to basically compress air into the engine. It is a very cool little system. It's relatively simple and it just works really nicely, and for this purpose here it's going to work really well. So for this engine we're going to give it a massive 3.3 litre supercharger, give it a supercharger ratio of about 2.4, so I believe for every one rotation of this the supercharger does 2.4 rotations. Then you have your supercharger tune, which I'm still learning. It's the same thing with the turbos. I never really quite understood it, but I'll try and explain it when we do the engine builds for the next video. For this engine specifically, we're going to produce 1.2 bar of boost, which is, if I'm not wrong, around 17 psi, 18, something like that. I'm not very good with imperial units, so yeah. Let's add some quality, and this has also changed a lot here, which I am actually a huge fan of. So we're going to go with injection. We're going to do multi-point injection because, well, it won't have direct injection. It's pushrod. Do pushrod engines exist with direct injection? That would be really interesting to know. But yeah, so you have now your fuel mixtures. which is now been moved over here. So for example, for this engine, we want to do something like this, lean it out a tiny bit, try and improve fuel economy. Now you have your lambda area. So basically, your engine is always working to try and achieve a lambda equals 1, which is your stoichiometric, volumetric, the efficiency of your engine. And essentially what it means is for every 14.7 liters of air going into the engine, it'll want to add 1 liter of fuel for petrol engines. And lambda equals 1 is essentially trying to make sure that that ratio is always upheld, because that will improve fuel economy and fuel efficiency, fuel efficiency and economy, and will also improve emissions massively. So yeah, so basically what this does is once we get to showing you how it works, you get a much more fine-tuned control over your basically how your engine controls its emissions. And then you also have your timing, which is pretty much the same as it was before. Instead of it being a little bar down here, it's now a vertical bar over here. And then we come to the fuel types. So this has been given its own page now, which is really, really cool. And for this engine specifically, we're going to go with E10 fuel. And this is because basically every single engine at this point is made to be able to run on E10 fuel, and this will be our lowest engine fuel ratio that we can give it. So for the actual manifold, we're going to give it a high performance intake, and here you go. This is what our supercharger looks like, and it is awesome. Next, we can then do manifold size. We don't know what that wants to look like just yet. But yeah, so let's go on to the exhaust. And this is pretty much just as if it were naturally aspirated, because you don't have a turbocharger, you have nothing restricting the exhaust flow. So we can give it a nice tubular long exhaust, give it a high flow catalytic converter, baffled, actually let's give it a first muffler off straight through, and then we give it a reverse flow to give it a bit of noise when it's accelerating, and the engine is knocking like crazy. So let me go fix that and I'll show you how epic these engines can be. And now that I've finished playing around with this engine a little bit, it has come out to being 1050 horsepower. This is so cool. I am genuinely so happy with this update. It is absolutely incredible. The engine already produces 400 Newton meters of torque before it even does anything. It is genuinely incredible. This thing could be put in anything and it would be an absolute powerhouse. But for this specific this specific case, it has 1050 horsepower and 1070 Newton meters of torque, which means that this thing is going to be absolutely incredible. And I am absolutely in love with it. I will show you how to make engines in this update with the next video I release. But yeah, this is just genuinely the coolest thing ever. So let's go and put it into this vehicle. And yeah, this is going to be epic. So with the radial tires, we're going to put on semi-slicks, give it the widest rear tires we can, and some slightly skinnier front tires, because this thing is going to oversteer to every possible angle it can probably ever achieve. And yeah, so we have a lot more wheel options as well. So we now have HD steel. I believe carbon fiber is also new. So we will choose that simply because I believe the real life equivalent of this car, which is the Dodge Demon, does actually have carbon fiber wheels as an option, so we will do it just for fun. And yeah, give it some 20-inch rims, make them nice and chunky, and yeah, this is just absolutely incredible. Carbon ceramic front brakes, because why not? It's just they're just the best. We're gonna do carbon ceramics in the rear as well, just because we can. And yeah, at least the brakes shouldn't overheat. We'll do a sports under tray. We will do just 2 seats in the front, and the weight slider has now also been moved into this page here. So basically with the interior, it has now got the weight slider in it. It's just been laid out a little bit nicer. So yeah, we're gonna go with a sports interior, premium heads-up display, and yeah, I don't think there is anything new here apart from the weight slider having been moved away. So yeah, we're just going to go with variable electric launch control because it's a muscle car. It's going to want to do quarter-mile drag strips and all that kind of fun stuff. Advanced 10 safety, and yeah, I don't think anything has been changed here either. So we're just going to go with active sport and semi-active dampers, and yeah, this car is surprisingly really good out of the box. So yeah, I am genuinely very happy with this vehicle. It is just absolutely epic. So yeah, that was me making a car, which is absolutely epic. I will make an engine video where I'll show you how to make all the different new engines that you could possibly make with all the different charging systems and forced induction, all that kind of stuff. It is just really, really cool. So yeah, the new page also shows us, this page has also been revised a little bit, so instead of it being blocks, it is now laid out a lot nicer over here. So for example, under performance, this thing has a theoretical top speed of 430 kilometers an hour, which I believe actually beats the original Veyron, which, yeah, bit very quick, but it has a quarter-mile time of less than 11 seconds on E10 fuel, don't forget. This is absolutely incredible. So yeah, this has been absolutely amazing to make. Yeah, I'm just having a load of fun with this update, so I'm going to finish it here. You've now seen how to make a car, and in the next video, which shouldn't be a lot later than this video, I will show you how to make all the different engines. So thank you very much for watching, everyone. I hope you've had a lovely time learning about this new update, and yeah, I hope to see you guys for the next video. Take care and bye bye.